Alright, so today I'll be reviewing the Softears Twilight. It is a $930 single DDIM, or at least that's MSRP. Nowadays you can find it a bit cheaper on the used markets for like 500. And yeah, bear with me because I'm still getting back into reviewing stuff. Alright. So in terms of drivability, it's pretty easy. You can just use a dongle. If you believe in scalability, I guess it scales a little bit. I mean, it's not crazy. Accessories, it's just this puck case that I have the RSV in. It's like soft inside, it's a puck case. There's spare filters that you can replace on the nozzle if you get them clogged or anything. And the cable is fine, it's light. Kind of gets tangly sometimes, but you know, it's decent. It's pretty utilitarian. And yeah, in terms of build, it's a nice metal shell. There's a recessed 2-pin, very recessed. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, in terms of that. So be careful about that. The nozzle is at a decent angle. The main thing though is the shell ergonomics. If you don't, or if you haven't tried it, it's kind of unique. So hopefully it works with you if you haven't demoed it. If you demoed it and it's fine, then it's perfect for you. And moving on to the sound, I would say it's a warm, balanced tune. And starting off with the bass, as I said, it's a warm, balanced tune, so definitely on the bassier side. Sub bass is noticeably elevated along with the mid bass, which means it's full and never thin. But it also leads to quite a bit of warmth, which is too much for me, to be honest. And it isn't as tight and incisive as I want, but there is solid texture. So I would say pop, R&B, and rap show this set off fairly well. I listened to High for This by The Weeknd while writing down notes for this review. In terms of the mids, they're both warm and forward. It's not lacking for male vocals or anything requiring meaty lower mids, and it is nice for pianos and female vocals. Soleil Soleil by Palm, I think that's how you say it, sounded really intimate and beautiful in this set, but there is occasionally some shoutiness, especially when you turn up the volume, so be careful about that. And then in terms of treble, it's just there, has a bit of sparkles, not too elevated, and yeah, not much to say about it. Not really any sibilance. It's just there to complement this set and not have it be too overly warm, because you have to have treble to like balance out the warmth, you know. In terms of technicalities, it's not amazing for the MSRP. I'd say the detail retrieval is above average for a single DDIM. Height is fine, depth is solid, and it leads to a solid sense of space for the music. Yo, I don't know why the cable is tangling like this. Give me a second. It was just annoying me earlier. Whatever. I give up. The imaging is solid, everything is layered fairly well, and you could distinguish different parts of the track well enough. And yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, timbre. It's pretty natural, as you'd expect from a single DD. So there are comparisons that I wrote with the Volume S and RSV. As you can see, the RSV is right here on a different cable, but they share basically the same one. One just ends in 3.5 and the other in 4.4. And then we'll just have this represent the Vol S, because I don't have it right now. But I wrote this all when I had them at the same time, so there's that. So in terms of bass, I would say the Volume S has the most impactful and rumbly bass. I would say the Twilight has like a full warm bass, decent impact, like not as tight as the Volume S. And then the RSV, it is still warm, but like the least impactful. It's more of a relaxed sound, so that extended to the bass as well. And in terms of mids, I'd say the RSV is the most natural, and I don't think I've heard any shoutiness from these. You'd have to find a really bad track to highlight like any shout from it. And then I'd have Twilight is about as warm as the RSV in terms of mids, but there's slightly more shout, especially with more volume. So it's still nice, but not as refined. And then I'd say Volume S is the most shouty when turned up, which is something I really noticed with stuff like J-pop and anything with like pronounced female vocals. That really is too much on the Volume S, so you'd have to listen lower volumes. And in terms of treble, the RSV is the least distracting, still has sparkles, and is like extended. Twilight, the treble is not as good. Like, it's still decent, it's just not as extended. And then Volume S, I'd say it's also not as refined as the other two, and also a bit more sibilance highlighted because there's more lower mids, I'd say. Or not lower mids, I mean lower treble. And in technicalities, RSV is the most balanced of all three, like in terms of details, staging, imaging, layering, separation, all that jazz. Would I say it has the best timbre? I'd say it's pretty much on par with Twilight in terms of timbre. Twilight doesn't have everything else as good as the RSV though, and then Volume S is just down there. Like, it's just not as good as the RSV or Twilight in the intangibles. So my overall rankings would be the RSV, the Twilight, and then the Volume S. And I guess that should tell you about how I prefer my IEMS. And also, there is one hidden contender, which you probably saw earlier. I have the OG Dark Magician, the MIM Dark Magician. So there will be it's a decent comparison, I'd say. So the Dark Magician says rumble and a full lower bass, while not lacking in like the tightness that I prefer in my bass. The Twilight is more elevated compared to the Dark Magician in the sub to mid bass, leading to more heft in the low end. But it's kind of just not as like incisive as like the Dark Magician. It's like slower as well, but they both have good texture, and I prefer the Dark Magician overall to the Twilight in terms of bass. For mids, the DM has a good balance where every part of the mids is well represented and there's no shout because like the lower ear gain, and there's just perhaps a little bit of warmth to the mids. The Twilight, on the other hand, has a lot more warmth from the upper bass while having a more pronounced upper mids. So males and lower mids are like pronounced, right? While at the same time, upper mids really shine through with like female vocals, pianos, anything on the higher registries, but also that leads to more shout, especially when you turn it up compared to the Dark Magician. And in terms of treble, I'd say the Dark Magician is just more agreeable to my ears, but they both have solid treble that don't really show like crazy sibilance unless you listen to terribly recorded tracks. So it's just like, it's not a make or break for either of them. They both have solid treble. In terms of technicalities, the Twilight stage is bigger, like so it's wider, but the vocals are placed slightly more intimate compared to the Dark Magician, which places them further back in the stage, but it's still like intimate, and the staging isn't as wide as the Twilight. They have a similar height to the stage, and I think the Dark Magician might have a bit more depth in terms of staging. I prefer the Dark Magician in terms of everything else, like imaging, layering, the separation of sound, and yeah. To my ears, I prefer the Dark Magician, to be honest. It just, the shell fits better for my ears, even though it's like more floaty. I have the Softears ultra clear tips on it, which really helps retain the seal in my ears and holds it in. And yeah, I wouldn't say like either of them are way better than the other, rather. Sorry, can't speak. But the Dark Magician is definitely more of a quote-unquote neutral tune compared to the Twilight's more colored approach, which is, you know, warmth and upper mids. But I could see someone liking both of them, depending on the day, you know? Or, I mean, either one of them or both. You know what I mean. And yeah, if you know what you're looking for, and the Twilight might be it, I feel like you should try it and see if it could be your single DD endgame. However, it's not for me, and I'd wreck it if you could get it around 500 on the used markets, but like close to Kiloblock, not really. And yeah, I tried to condense everything as simple as possible to like a shorter video, and hopefully I gave you guys enough info. If you guys have any questions, just ask in the comments below, and I will try my best to help you out with that. And with that, I will record the Supernova review right after this. So yeah, have a good day and take care. Bye bye.